Blowhigh is looking particularly perky. He's diving out of the water. Sorry. Hey Spuds, it's Jamie. Welcome back to another video. If that's been a channel, I don't know, but welcome back either way. And today we are looking at the glorious, the wonderful, the absolutely horrendous memes of the right. Oh yes, we are looking through the subreddit of the right can't meme, because you know they can't meme, and right-wing memes, or at least the ones I found for this episode, which is actually similar to the ones I find for most episodes, they're just full of homophobia, transphobia, misogyny, just generally being a bit of an asshole to other people, and saying go woke, go broke quite a lot. Who knows? But yes, come join me and help me get through the next however many minutes of right-wing memes. What it's like making a slightly offensive joke on the internet nowadays. You're the one happy person. You get arrested. You make a slightly offensive joke. You upset Barbara next door and she will have you arrested. But you'll be happy about it. Oh yes, because you didn't go woke. I would argue that how were the police to know that the person they're arresting is the person that they wanted to arrest? Because in the picture with the little cross through it, it's a smiley face, but actually the person they've arrested has stubble. Dun dun dun. It's actually the evil bearded twin. I mean, I like how gender neutral all the little cartoon characters are. There's no hair, there's no eyelashes, there's no makeup, there's no body shapes, there's no real differentiation in clothing style. This is a pretty woke drawing. It's funny though, I say it's funny so much when I just mean it's weird. They're like, oh, make a slightly offensive joke
and you'll get taken away by the police.
When really it's not a slightly offensive joke, it's just blatant, outright, horrible discrimination against people or somebody from a marginalized community. And you don't get arrested, you just get called out by people, but you do get applauded by fellow bigots. I feel like many of the scenarios depicted in these right-wing memes are very much made up. They're like, how can I make myself look like the victim?
Hate speech? What is this hate speech you speak of?
In reality, is typically just speech the establishment hates. I support free speech, just not hate speech. I support physics, just not gravity. Oh, they think those two things are comparable. Right, so what? They think that you cannot have free speech without hate speech? They feel like you cannot have hate speech without free speech? They think hate speech is important? They want the right to hate on other people? There's a difference. The umbrella of like the allowance of free speech can cover hate speech within it, but hate speech is a subcategory because although you have free speech, that's not freedom of consequence. It's not freedom of being called out. It's not freedom of having ramifications for what you've just said and getting away with hurting people by what you've just said and discriminating against people. I feel like a lot of homophobic, transphobic, most oftentimes right-wing people who like to go around and be like,
free speech, I can say what I want,
then also expect to face no consequences for what they say. But when they do face consequences because other people are exercising their right to free speech back at them, then they get offended. And then they say that their free speech is being shut down by telling the people who are just saying that what they said was not very nice, you're not allowed to say that because that's impeding on my right to free speech. But then surely they're impeding on the other person's right to free speech of calling out bigotry. That's also included in free speech. I think a lot of homophobes and bigots generally just need to understand they may face consequences for their actions, and that is part of life. But no, they would rather compare free speech, hate speech to physics and gravity. How sensible. The one thing leftists hate more than Donald Trump is supposed to be like the white cis het family, 2 kids. Oh yeah, leftists really hate that traditional family. You know, no, actually no issue. Really what is disliked is discrimination and the assumption that all families need to look like this. There's nothing wrong with families looking like this, but not all families need to look like this. That's the point. Oh, by the way, some of these memes have scribbles on, so you'll notice like the first few have had like pen marks and stuff on them. Is because the subreddit where I find some of them have said they want people to like deface the bigoted meme before it goes on the internet on their page. Sure. Haters are going to hate. Hated for exposing the truth. Donald Trump. Tell me what truth has Donald Trump exposed other than the truth about himself that he's very bigoted? Isn't he a convicted felon? Like, it says here from May 2024, Donald Trump has been convicted on 34 counts of falsifying business records. So the man that they turn to as as their hero for exposing the truth, has 34 convictions against him for falsifying records. Right. Yeah, that makes so much sense. And then underneath we have Elon Musk, hated for letting truth be told. Hated for letting a social media platform turn into an absolute cesspit of just one big echo chamber of hateful, closed-minded, arseholey people. Yes. How come you never read books at nursing homes, or to the homeless, or to the sick and needy? Asks the goose to somebody I am assuming is supposed to be LGBT plus in some way. Why is it only the little kids? I think it's more that transphobes and people who are like,
drag queens shouldn't read books to kids. Oh, drag queen story time, story hour, so inappropriate.
when it's perfectly child friendly. They're only noticing when people do it in a context that they seem to care about or they feel that can be used for their benefit. They don't care enough about people who aren't well. They don't care enough about people in nursing homes or people who are homeless. That's not what they feel is going to pull most of the heartstrings of the people sitting on the fence about trans issues and LGBT plus issues. No, they go after kids. Kids and women have been picked as the two easiest groups of people that if you're like, these people are under threat by this group, the most people will then villainize the group in question. And right now, it's like drag queens and trans people. Transphobes have been like, oh look, they're reading to little kids. It's because you don't pay attention to other things that LGBT plus people do, because that bigots only pay attention to what LGBT plus people do when they feel like they can use it to villainize the LGBT plus community, right now particularly trans people. But also there would be nothing wrong with only having a drag queen story hour for kids, because it's not something that's inappropriate. It's done in a very age appropriate way. It's really bizarre that it's so hated upon. I don't get it. Dad, I think I'm non-binary. You're not. You just spend too much time on TikTok. Uninstall it and you'll feel better. Thanks, Dad. That was great advice. Oh, so they've caught on now that Tumblr is like old news, and it's TikTok now. It's TikTok's fault
that the kids are trans.
They never really went after YouTube as an individual platform. Social media as a whole, yes, but it was like Tumblr and now TikTok. They just don't... They think it's something to do with the T, isn't it? Is it because trans begins with T? Solved it. Sure, Jan, you've probably read a very biased summary of rapid onset gender dysphoria and gone, yes, I'm going to believe that because I don't like trans people, and that makes it easier for me to dislike trans people and not feel like a bad person. TikTok isn't making people trans. Deleting TikTok isn't going to suddenly make somebody completely switch who they are, and having TikTok isn't going to make somebody completely switch who they are. Oh, look, there's Trump. I hate Trump. I can relate. Apparently in this guy's car, if you hate Trump, you get kicked out, and they seem to believe that then Trump would want to get in your car with you, because that would really happen. Yes. There was a really great post recently about the difference between like disagreeing on opinions and still being able to be friends, apart from when those opinions then impede on somebody's like right to exist. If you are supporting people and supporting politicians and supporting policies that actively discriminate against marginalized people, whether that's the LGBT plus community, whether that's people with disabilities, whether that's people of color, I don't understand how you could still then be friends with people. I'm not here to be friends with or to make pleasant small talk with people who will literally vote for politicians and parties that are actively trying to take away my rights as a trans person and the rights of other marginalized communities and the rights of other trans people. And it's absolutely baffling to me how people are like,
oh, but we can disagree and still get on.
And then suddenly it's your fault as the person that they're voting for the rights to be taken away from when you get mad that they voted that way and you don't want to be friends anymore. Well, of course not. Of course not, Pamela. You just voted for Trump. Why would I want to be friends with someone who votes for Trump? New Disney Star Wars reboot is going to blow. Luke, I was your father. I mean, at least it's somewhat original of a joke. And Darth Vader looking beautiful. I'd watch it, a trans Darth Vader. There's no need for a skimpy outfit to be worn though, just because Darth Vader is a trans woman. It's the whole conversation of like, why does Lara Croft wear so few clothes? I feel like the equivalent would be like Drake. No, he wears a lot more. I was gonna say, where's the cape gone? But the cape is still there. It's just what's under the cape that is very greatly diminished. How long has Mickey been holding this back? Men can't get pregnant. How original and clever, and congratulations. You made a thing. Mickey Mouse. He's been holding on to that for decades. How long was that cartoon made? Wasn't that the original, like, Disney cartoon? That was Steamboat Willie, is a 1928 American animated short film. Oh, so that isn't Mickey Mouse. Is that Steamboat Willie? Well, what a funny character name to start talking about trans people. Men can't get pregnant. People saying that and people believing that doesn't stop trans men from existing, and the fact that trans men exist shows that our old views on how gender and sex and biology and everything is intertwined and how we label it and how it works is outdated. And it's just understanding that these literal labels and buckets and terms and language that we made up and has been flexible throughout time and has changed so much and evolved so much. You look back like a few hundred years ago, you wouldn't understand what people were saying in English. Shakespeare plays are quite difficult to understand, some of them, because of the way they're written. There are so many words from the English language, I'm just using English as an example because that's the language I speak, that used to be a thing and used to be used or used to have different meanings and now have completely evolved, or we don't use them anymore, or we use them in a different context. And I think people are just clinging on so hard to not wanting to change how they view the world and how they view labels and language. And like, it's evolving whether you want it to or not. And our understanding of the world, our understanding of science goes way beyond basic biology now, so we know a lot more. We know the fact that trans people exist and trans men can get pregnant and trans men are men, so therefore Steamboat Willie, incorrect. Speed dating in 2024 will be like, are you pure blood? What does that even mean? What does that even... Next, pure blood. The only context I've heard similar things being said is to do with vaccines. So this being like, if you've been vaccinated, no speed dating. I mean, if you're an anti-vaxxer, that would very quickly put an end to any date I would be on with you. So I'm also married and monogamous, so that would also put a very swift end, not even make a date begin in the first place. But if I was single, I would definitely not be looking to date an anti-vaxxer. Oh look, 3 wise men, but they've got different things. The 3 wise men, the wise man, they can be separated into individual people. The wise man carrying gold says there was no pandemic. I'm assuming that seem to be correct because they're wise men. Is gold, frankincense and myrrh. So instead of frankincense, he's holding common sense. Climate change is a hoax. And instead of myrrh, he's got unvaccinated sperm. Men can't get pregnant. Oh, we've got 2 men can't get pregnant in a row. Okay. I mean, I find it very interesting. There's just this dude carrying around a vat of sperm. That sounds like a fun job. I'm not sure how long it will be usable for. There is a lock on it and there's like a little temperature gauge. Those are some great shoes though. I think it really puts transphobes and transphobic views into perspective when you see the level of other conspiracy theory that they're up against. So people who don't think trans people are valid and exist and don't think trans people are their gender, that kind of thought process and level is the same as people who don't believe climate change is real and don't think that there was actually a COVID pandemic. Like, these are just people who are full on denying any kind of scientific reality at this point. So you carry on. I think the common sense is quite ironic that it's in a container because it's definitely not in their heads. Maybe that's the problem. Liberal Thanksgiving. They, them, turkey. Lovely. Crybaby cranberry sauce. Pronoun pumpkin pie. Other slice of the he, him, please. Mummy milk and mac and cheese. Joe Biden, is that meant to be green bean casserole? Stuffing. They could have done so much with stuffing. Just stuffing. If this already wasn't screaming not creative. I'll take a portion of the I'll take a slice of the they, them turkey with a bit of pumpkin pie. Pronoun pumpkin pie, please. Needs to be the pronoun one. And I will skip the mummy milk and mac and cheese this time. Yeah. Green bean casserole. What is green bean casserole? That does not sound like my vibe. I'm not the biggest fan of green beans or vegetables in general and fruit. The texture is just so unpredictable. I'm sorry. Like, I like strawberries, but you could have the most perfect, like, juicy, sweet, like, not too hard, not too soft strawberry, and you eat it and it's like, great, I'm gonna have another one. And then the next one you have is like hard and watery and ugh. And then the next one you have is just mush. I can't deal with that level of inconsistency, and I only like it when it's perfect and it's sweet and it's not too hard and it's not too soft. So I have an issue with fruit and a lot of vegetables as well. Stop telling me I was born gay. I think the baby's actually just mad because they don't know how to use a computer yet. No one's telling babies they're born gay. I feel like the homophobes and anybody with those kind of viewpoints take things so literally. Like the phrase like born this way, like you were born LGBT plus. It's not going up to literal babies and going, you were born gay.
You.
It's because it's not a learnt behavior. Your sexual orientation, your gender identity, not learnt behaviors. It's because being LGBT plus is not a learnt behavior. It's not something people choose, and it's not something that people can be like converted out of being. It is just within your head when you are born. It is part of you. That is what people mean. No babies are screaming and crying saying, stop telling me I was born gay. Women voting to legalize the murder of their babies so they can have a career is no different than child sacrifice to the sun god so there can be a good harvest. Women having autonomy and control and the ability to make decisions around their own bodies and not wanting to carry on a pregnancy when the baby is like a clump of cells. That is a fetus. That is not a born child. That is not a living child. They are saying that that is the same as murdering a baby that is in this world and alive. I am very, very strongly pro-choice. I am very, very strongly women and anyone who can get pregnant having autonomy and control over their own bodies and being able to make decisions around their own bodies. Oh my God. It's so ridiculous that pro-lifers, they're not pro-life, they're just anti-choice. They're anti-women's autonomy. They're pro-control over women, and that's what it boils down to. They don't give a shit about the life of that child. But as soon as the baby's born, nah, don't care. If that baby is LGBT plus, if that baby is disabled, if that baby is a person of color, no, really don't care. You can't call yourself pro-life if at the point that a fetus actually becomes a baby with a life, you no longer care about them. You only care about them when it is giving an opportunity to control a woman. Being anti-abortion is honestly one of the most abhorrent views I think people can have because there's so much disgusting depth to it. No. Joining a dank looking meme group. Remember guys, no bullying, transphobia, race. Okay. And they chose a meme with a person of color to represent them driving and reversing away from being part of a group that doesn't accept racism. Well, it's not the silliest thing that they've done so far in this video with these memes, but it's definitely up there. Yes, because we all need a bit of transphobia, bullying and racism to make the memes funny. That's why bigots don't have any humor, because they think it's funny to be hateful, but it's not. My biggest piece of advice is not my biggest piece of advice, but a big piece of advice I give to allies, and people are like, how can I be a better ally to certain communities, like the LGBT plus community? I'm like, literally, if somebody in your vicinity makes a homophobic or a transphobic or a racist or a misogynistic joke or an ableist joke or any kind of joke that targets negatively a marginalized group of people, don't laugh. There is nothing more awkward than some loudmouth arsehole thinking they've just said the joke of the century and being met with crickets. Have a cricket sound effect in your pocket to play whenever somebody says a shit joke like that. Dressed up as the scariest thing I could possibly imagine for Halloween. Vaccinated, wearing a mask, holding Bud Light. Okay, so I'm assuming there's at least like anti-vaxxer, maybe some kind of homophobia, transphobia going on with the Bud Light, because Bud Light did like a pro-pride campaign and then Dylan Mulvaney thing all blew up over Bud Light, one can of beer. Wow, how dare they support a trans woman. If that is the scariest thing you could possibly imagine, there is some news to tell you about what is out in the world. You're about to get a whole lot more terrified. Spiritual health via skirt length. The health of your spirit is dependent on the length of your skirt. Right, let's see. A skirt that's mid-thigh. I mean, they've not even started extremely short. That first one that is the shortest skirt is not even short. It's just a skirt. But if you wear a skirt that's like halfway down your thighs, you are Satan's daughter. Congratulations. Here is your new father. If you're wearing a skirt that is just above the knee, you've never heard the gospel. If you're wearing a skirt that just covers your knee, you're worldly with a conscience. It's very quick. You know, like a few inches takes you from Satan's daughter to worldly with a conscience. If your skirt travels a little beyond your knee, you are saved. Oh dear, saved. Wow. If it's like halfway down your calf, you're saved with a smattering of tongues. I know what they mean by that, but it just sounds a certain way. If your skirt is nearly to your ankles, you are saved, sanctified, and filled. Who knew? If your skirt is down to your ankles, you are saved, sanctified, baptized, and filled. And if your skirt is so long that you are going to trip over it on every step, you are pure holiness. She's already made it and is only here as an example. Doesn't matter what you wear on top. You could be topless. But no, if your skirt is so long that it drags on the floor, you are the holiest person alive. It doesn't matter your gender. Your spiritual health is only determined by your skirt length. The International Order of Christian Men have created a little diagram. It's a Venn diagram, right? So we have abortion rights, LGBTQ rights, climate change hoax, Antifa/BLM/CRT exists only because of the women's vote. I mean, that's a win for women. Thank you. I mean, climate change is not a hoax, but if abortion rights, if access to abortion, if pro-choice, if LGBTQ rights, if climate change being tackled and discussed as a subject, if racism being tackled and discussed as a subject are all things that have come about because women vote, then thank you so much to the suffragettes. And thank you to all of the women who continue to exercise their very deserved right to vote. Batman has had enough of their bullshit. My pronouns are shut the fuck up. This is Patriots Month. No pronouns during Patriots Month. We are only patriot and patriot self. Oh wait, that's a pronoun. I don't know how they get through life without ever using a pronoun. It really baffles me. I've never seen an anti-pronouner actually not be able to use a pronoun. They all use pronouns, but they just like to pretend that they don't. I don't know how that works. I don't know what kind of level of cognitive dissonance is going on in their heads, but it must be very high, and I cannot imagine the stress. They're all aging terribly. The year is 2042. My electric car won't start because I used the wrong pronoun yesterday. No air conditioner in my 50 square foot apartment because I reached my monthly allotment of farts, but I think they are adding grub worms to my cricket paste. I mean, a very extreme. I like how the image is just like the Google logo on a building. I don't know where the image is from. I don't know if it's been made. But if you carry on having the attitude of denying the very real thing of climate change and there being a climate crisis, this is an extreme version. But like, we're gonna be eating crickets and limiting electricity use. Like, the future that they're mocking and being like,
I don't want to end up like this, so I'm not gonna believe in this bullshit.
By not believing in it and trying to make sure that the future doesn't drastically change because we don't start looking after our planet, the more likely they are to end up living in some dystopian world that they claimed is because people are saying climate change is real. But they're the ones that caused it because they denied climate change. That was a hot mess of a thought process, but I just find it really ironic that people are like,
I don't believe it's real, but in 20 years' time, you're going to have us all doing this, this, and this.
I made a comic about leftists being dumb. These memes would indicate that leftists are not the dumb ones. About something that actually happened or something that you made up. Something that I made up. This is not a right-wing meme. This is a funny meme because what happens? These memes are all like right-winger bigots thinking like,
I gotcha, leftists.
and then it's like, but the scenario that you've just made up to then create this false argument in your head where you then win is actually just a scenario you've made up in your head. It didn't actually happen. So congratulations, you won an argument against yourself. He left me because I said I don't like electric cars. He just grabbed his man purse, pulled his hair up in a bun and said when the car is charged in an hour, he's gone. Well, he sounds somewhat disorganized by not having his car on charge overnight. I feel like whenever people are like, I don't like like electric cars. Unless you're talking about things that are legitimate, like we don't have the full level of infrastructure to make them as easy to use and easy to charge when you're out and about as petrol or diesel cars, but we're getting there. There's so much more infrastructure being put in place. Unless you're telling me you don't like them because of how much more expensive they are than diesel and petrol cars, like they are very inaccessible for a lot of people. If you're just not liking them because they're electric and because the intention is that they are supposed to be better for the planet, and that's a real dick move. Oh, a quote from Ben Shapiro, apparently, with a very moody photo that looks like it's signed. Oh, wow. Good men must teach their sons the art of manliness or societies crumble. I think society would be a lot better off if toxic masculinity did not exist. And I feel like
Teach sons manliness
is code for raise another generation of men with toxic masculinity and blame women for the problems of men. Like, let's just raise better men and ignore Ben Shapiro would be a good start. Blue hair dye, a father figure. Oh, so the blue hair dye is barreling down the tracks. Oh my god. And a father figure, aka Superman, is there to stop it from hitting teenage girls. Ultimate danger to teenage girls is blue hair dye. As soon as a tiny little bit of blue touches their hair, they're trans. I feel like that's what this must be about. Or they're LGBT plus in some way. Oh my god. Again, interesting that they have used a comic where they're trying to represent, like the first one where all the comic characters were very androgynous. This one has chosen a character in a comic, labeled them as teenage girls, and they look very masked. Like, that is a tomboy. An American flag. Oh my god. No, and then there's a child holding an American flag and the other person is like, no, get it away from me because it is, what are they trying to say? Like, the American flag is to leftists what garlic is to vampires, or like the cross. So many of these are just really bizarre. Actually, all of them are really bizarre. Okay, so we have someone punching on this woman. No, says the blue haired group with the little gender symbol on them. No, we don't hit women. And then it's the same person getting hit, but this time the person doing the hitting has put on little blonde hair things that extend the hair. Oh, and a trans flag skirt. Okay, so I'm assuming man punching woman. Oh, but suddenly this is a trans woman punching a woman, and all the other LGBT plus dyed hair people are going, wow, yeah. Honestly, this may sound slightly controversial. When I see comics like this and I see that this is where their mindsets are around trans people, it makes sense why there's so much hatred, because they have such a deep level of misunderstanding, or they have some weird desire to spread this deep lie and say that, oh, suddenly if somebody were a trans woman, they would not only not be stopped from committing violence against women, but they would be applauded for committing that violence. And that is such a disgustingly skewed perspective of what's going on, because either way, regardless of the person's identity in these situations, people would be saying no, or at least decent people would be saying no, but like LGBT plus people wouldn't be cheering on a trans woman beating anybody up because they're a trans woman doing the beating up. Like, that's just such a skewed perspective of reality, and it's kind of scary how deeply conspiracy theory and wrong it is. Damn. Wow. Boys' locker rooms 20 years ago. Bro, that is that guy's contribution to the conversation. Bro, did you see Jessica in class today? Smoking. Yeah, man, she's hot. I'm thinking about asking her out. Go Bulldogs. Right. Within the last 5 years, I finally started HRT. I'm a trans furry with a diaper kink, says the bro. Wow. Yay, I'm non-binary. You'll be captain of the girls' soccer team in no time. I hope to look as good as Jessica someday. And there are 1, 2, 3 Progress Pride flags. One of them is just on this person's shorts. They're so terrified. Like, transphobes like to say, oh, like, transphobia is the wrong word because we're not scared of trans people. Yes, you are. If you have some big conspiracy theory that trans people are taking over and it's a social contagion and it's everywhere and it's having this kind of impact on people, you are scared. Transphobes have created a false narrative that have now made them shit scared of trans people and even more transphobic. They're stuck in their own vicious cycle of hate. Would you allow a child to transition? ... Yeah, they have the freedom to choose. To Christianity? What? No, following a religion is a personal choice that shouldn't be forced upon other... Ha ha ha. But what they said, following a religion is a personal choice that shouldn't be forced upon other, I'm assuming they're going to say people. What's wrong with that statement? Like, would you allow a child to transition to Christianity? I mean, it's not something that you would call a transition. Would you allow a child to be Christian if that is their belief? Sure. Following a religion is a personal choice that shouldn't be forced, but they haven't said,
No, nobody should ever be religious ever. Oh my god, how abhorrent.
they've just said, like, even in their own meme where they've made up their own scenario, they've not even made the response of the liberal person make sense for what they're trying to portray. They've not actually said anything bad against being religious. All they've said is it should not be forced upon other people, but they've equally not forced transitioning upon children because they said that children have the freedom to choose. This is a real self-own, because the person who's supposed to represent like the LGBTQ plus leftist has said when it comes to transitioning as a trans person that it is up to the individual, and children included should be given that freedom to be who they are. Then when it comes to religion, there's like a what? No, like a surprise, because it was a deliberately misleading question, and then all they've said is that following a religion is a personal choice and shouldn't be forced upon anybody, basically saying people have the freedom to choose and should have the freedom to choose what religion, if they live by a religion. They've equally not said being trans should be forced on anybody. This is so stupid. They could have made the leftist character say anything, because this is a made up scenario, and they chose them to sound perfectly reasonable and accepting of both trans and cis kids and of religious and non-religious people. Wow. They exploded because they were shocked at how the right-wing transphobe thought that they'd owned them in that situation. Right. In this house, we believe Black Lives Matter, except in the womb. I mean, that is the only situation where it feels like a lot of pro-life people ever care about black people is when they are fetuses. As soon as that, nope, nobody gives a shit. Women's rights are human rights, just don't ask what a woman is. The transphobes that ask that question have never given an answer. Where is the answer to that question from transphobes that doesn't exclude a whole bunch of cis women? No human is illegal, besides on Martha's Vineyard. I don't get that one. Science is real, excluding basic biology. We've gone over so many times why the basic biology thing is just hilarious and ridiculous, and such a self-own that they like to promote so strongly and loudly that they only know biology up to a basic level. There's a reason why it's called basic. It's primary school. It's like the kid-friendly version of general concepts that we know so much more about. Love is love, unless it's love for country. Having love for your country is okay. I personally find it a bit strange, but like, chill, whatever. Being so deeply patriotic that it just makes you an asshole and racist and xenophobic and everything like that's a problem. Also, a country can't love you back. Kindness is everything, but not if you disagree with us. That is very projection from the right wing there. Yeah, that's it. That's all the bad right wing memes for today. How do we feel about those? Honestly, I think it's very interesting to look at memes made by people with these transphobic, racist, homophobic, anti-abortion mindsets and anti-vaxxer and all of these kind of mindsets that just go so strongly against all of my principles and morals in life, because it doesn't make their bigotry make sense, but it makes potentially why they have those bigoted views make a bit more sense, because you can see that the conspiracy theories they've bought into and the lies that they've believed and been told, and it's like, okay, you genuinely like just have this really bizarre lens of the world that is so incorrect and is posing open-mindedness as dangerous and as something to fear. It's just so problematic, and these memes are just so bizarre and they are so hateful, and I'm not making up any excuses for these viewpoints, because anybody at any point can be like, oh, there's a lot of people telling me that this is not the best perspective to have and I'm hurting other people. Maybe I should look into that and not hurt people anymore. But they still don't do that. So yeah, what a fascinating look. Let me know if you like this video. Go leave a comment down below. Think about giving a thumbs up and subscribing if you want to, but no pressure. And yeah, as always, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time, and so will Blow High. Goodbye from both of us. Goodbye. Say goodbye, Blow High. He's shy. Bye.